Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and we've got an important one for you today. Live from DC, right in the capital region, we have two members of Action4Assange, maybe my two favorite members. They're also the host of the Slow News Day show. It is Steve and Glory, and they are on a mission, they are on a journey to bring people into the mix, into the discussion about censorship that is all around us in every single aspect of our lives, night and day now. It can no longer be ignored. And obviously at the epicenter of that issue is what has happened to WikiLeaks and especially Julian Assange progressively now over the last decade. So Steve, Glory, it's great to see you. This is the Fuck Censorship Show.
Hell yeah!
Yeah. This is the first time I've met my co-host, by the way.
Yeah, this is the first time I've met him in person.
Yeah.
Well, we're very excited to have you on. I was thinking I might be able to do it, and then literally Sunday night we got 5 inches of snow and ice. It actually started as rain into ice, and I remember I was out on Saturday and actually celebrating a little freedom. I don't know if you saw some of the pictures, but in a bar, no masks, live music, people enjoying themselves. Nobody's going to die in 3 weeks. I promise you, there will not be.
Jason, do you know how many grandmas you killed doing that?
Just saying that.
All right, I just need to stop now because we already had our pre-conversation, and I don't want to get into that aspect of it. But that's certainly one of the things that now I have to self-censor when I'm on YouTube. And I can't even say things like that because I'll go off into a tirade of factual information that apparently, allegedly, from authoritative sources is now medical misinformation. Just like any talk, if, for instance, you were to say something like, I believe there might be, in some circumstance, some evidence of widespread voter fraud. Well, you might get deplatformed. I would never say something like that. I would never say such a thing. But that is one of the crazy aspects of this very early 2021. And the other crazy aspect is that you are now in a militarized zone, one in which you are going to be visiting tomorrow along your path of justice, your path of just being able to say what you need to say, tell the truth. How Orwellian is that? So to kick it off, first of all, introduce yourselves to my audience. I know I'm rude. But then secondly, tell my audience where everything is going to begin tomorrow in D.C. and then how they could possibly get involved in another area.
Hell yeah. So I'm Steve Poikinen, this is Glory Jones. We host Slow News Day, and we're also, I'm national organizer for Action4Assange. So this week in DC, actually, let me back up just a moment. Last year around this time, one of the old school members of the collective Anonymous came up with the hashtag Clovers For Assange. It was a low point in Julian's case. There were, if you remember, they kicked back the start of the second round of the extradition hearing from May to September. So Lubers was like, okay, well, here's a hashtag, Clovers For Assange. We need to donate our luck to Julian. He could use some right now. People ran with it. People started putting a clover emoji in their Twitter bio. It became a way for people to recognize each other internationally as WikiLeaks supporters. So the concept for these events is to do that in the physical space in 3 dimensions. So we're calling it Clovers For Assange. We're hijacking St. Patrick's Day. We are going to meet at noon in downtown at the building where Fox, NBC, and C-SPAN are. We're going to march to the CNN building where Craig Postage, Ardula, Fiorella Isabel, Johnny Hollywood, and a number of other people are going to meet for their fuck censorship protest. And then together we're going to march to Google, where we are going to stand in front of Google and just scream at them for a while.
Yeah.
And let them know exactly how we feel about them and about their toddler company, YouTube, and the way that they have decided to just suck out loud at narrative management,
gatekeep badly.
Yeah.
And you know what? Let's pull it on back and just talk about the importance of a Google for a second. What is Google? First of all, Google isn't even top dog. It's not even top dog. It's part of the shell that is the Alphabet Corporation. Now, Google itself, starting out as a search engine, is still the #1 search engine in the world. It also happens to own the #1 operating system in the world, Android. It happens to also own the platform that's the #2 search engine in the world. Okay, and that happens to be YouTube. It happens to be the #1 video platform in the world. It has worked hand in hand, arm in arm with the NSA and intelligence in this country since its inception, and currently works with NASA on artificial intelligence and quantum computing. Not a monopoly. Not a monopoly. Not a technopoly. I mean,
Jason, it's just a private corporation.
Yep, and I can be tossed off sideways by an elephant without my dick being torn off. Give me a break. Like, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life, and I don't know how people can even defend it. I mean, just the things that I rattled off in 40 seconds, and this is why I got to get into Congress, because I may not win, I may not make change, but I will put something like that on the record, and then it will be censored. Like when Rand Paul talked about Erica Caramello Bar, or when Ron Johnson had Dr. Corey on. 2 of my strikes, warning and strike 2, playing Senate hearings. I mean, that's where we're at, and that's why what you're doing is so damn important, because it reaches out to that level. When you have something that's working with the intelligence apparatus behind the scenes, when you have a zombie president being protected by militarized units who can barely rattle off what they put on a fucking teleprompter for him. It is the most in-your-face predator class takeover this country, and maybe the world, has ever seen. And the way they've been able to utilize that iron fist of power is through censorship and is through this technopoly. So tell people how they can get involved, because this is also very important. Hey, guys, guess what? St. Patrick's Day Parade in New York and Boston, 2nd year done. 2 weeks to stop the spread. They were going to postpone it last year, remember? You think you're getting one next year? Not unless you step up to the fucking plate. So, go ahead.
So, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't know if Steve mentioned this yet, but on the 18th also, we're going to be in front of the Department of Justice protesting Merrick Garland and his DOJ and the fact that they're essentially continuing the torture of an award-winning journalist in Julian Assange.
And so if you want to get involved, please hit contact me directly. I will give my email address, spsnd@protonmail, and Jason can throw that in the links. Hit me up on Twitter at Slow News Day Show. Action_4 Assange. Our good friend Misty at Sarcasm Stardust on Twitter has been helping put people together. If you let us know where you are, we have built up a pretty solid network of people all over the U.S. and then internationally as well. We'll do our damnedest to connect you to somebody like that's close to you. And if not, like, there's a fairly good chance that you could get one of us to show up, at your closest major city to throw an upcoming event. We need to branch out a little bit in April. April 11th marks 2 years since Julian Assange was illegally and violently trafficked out of the Ecuadorian embassy. So we are definitely planning on making some noise for that. As soon as I get back to the Santa Cruz Mountains on Saturday, that's one of the first things that I'm planning is an event for the 11th. I'm also planning a couple events at Google's campus and at YouTube's campus in San Bruno and Mountain View, respectively.
And we'll also help promo your events as well, because at Candles for Assange on Twitter does a great job. Alex Hill, she does an amazing job helping link together all the corresponding protests around the world. So because it is very much an international day of solidarity and action for Julian Assange, because that's really what it's going to take to get him freed. Because if we put our faith in politicians to drop the charges, to pardon him out of the mercy of Joe Biden's segregationist, racist, corporatist, imperialist heart, then that's not really going to do much, unless if we get out in the streets and have a mass global post-partisan movement to kind of begin the push to secure some agency and start taking down the surveillance state. And this is where we can start with it, by at least trying to revive the corpse of our First Amendment.
Absolutely. And I think that this is also an opportunity to talk to the Trust the Plan folks, okay? And really have a moment of actual remembrance about almost 2 years ago. Because, guys, I already see the Trump and dump saying he's going to run in 2024. How's that going to help us? He ran on, love the WikiLeaks, can't get enough of the WikiLeaks. Have you seen those WikiLeaks? To secret indictment, torture in prison, one of the most terrible rulings ever that left the door open for an administration to do whatever they wanted afterwards to free speech. And then no pardon on the outskirts of him leaving office. Meanwhile, telling you that Bill Barr was your friend. And a lot of you people were saying, it's happening! Ah! He's on an island somewhere and he's okay.
Well, no, now the thing is, Trump is playing the ultimate 37D chess here, because he is really the one controlling Biden. That's what's happening right now.
Yeah, well, listen. If you don't know a little thing called Remember Reality Moment, I told you from the very beginning of, not only the way they were treating Assange when I was still at We Are Change and dragging him out, but then when you saw the counterintelligence 2020 to 2022 document that laid out the groundwork for what they did after DC on the 6th. Remember that? You're a public disclosure organization, or you're an ideologically motivated individual. You're Al-Qaeda, you're ISIS, you're North Korea, you're Iran, you're a rogue state. And now they've solidified it with this 9/11 at the Capitol narrative. I mean, we're here, man. And a lot of what I say, I don't know, this could be political misinformation. He's misconstruing the events. No, I'm spot the fuck on. And I'm not that smart. But for you to, we were talking about this, Steve, for you to be in this place now in the third time in about 2 months, right, Steve? Right? Third time in about 2 months?
Yeah.
Progressively, what have you seen happen to DC, this once hive and epicenter of life?
Well, so recall, I guess, December when you and Andrew were here. Massive police presence, sure, but hundreds of thousands of people milling about, just in general, not even Trump people, but including visitors to the city and people that already lived here and people that already worked here, and just from December 10th to January 6th, it emptied out, but for us, right? And then there was the Stop the Steal people, a couple of pockets of Antifa and shit like that. People put on matching outfits and went to go yell at each other. They were all other people wearing matching outfits. So coordinated mayhem, whatever. But now it feels like a fucking ghost town, man. It really does. There's cars on the streets, sure, but every place we've been into to eat, empty, but for us. I don't know, dude. We'll go and see what the military encampment looks like tomorrow, for sure. But I just even driving near it, everything just sort of empties out.
Yeah,
and it feels like the air's gone.
And I remember, I mean, I know I told you about this, but I'm still, one of the other reasons I thought about going back down there, I was like, man, I just do not remember a time where I was traveling around in these big cities, DC, Philly, or any of these things, where I was worried about my car getting jacked up and my tires taken, my ribs taken. I mean, when I woke up that last day and, you know, I was maybe 5 miles outside of the Capitol, you know, not very far away from DC itself. And I woke up to a car right next to mine with its window smashed out on plastic crates, missing its tires. I'm like, this is 80s New York City shit. Yeah. And when you see how crime has literally tripled in these urban areas and police enforcement seems to have receded because of this defund the police mantra, et cetera, instead of addressing the cronyism, addressing the brutality across the board, addressing the fact we've militarized the police, right? They're okay with that. They're okay with militarizing. No, we'll just defund them and we'll have a 300% increase in New York City with violent crime. And we'll have 126% increase in shootings. And I mean, it's unbelievable. We're seeing it across the board. And I feel like DC is next for that. And the only reason you haven't seen it inside the city right now is because the military's fucking everywhere. All right. And because the police presence really, they're not defunding the police there. I promise you. If you go 2 blocks without seeing a cop, I'd be shocked. I mean, that's where you're at in DC. So
yeah, no, I mean, we're right on North Capitol right now. Like the actual Capitol building down the street, several blocks. And I mean, really, if we were to like move the webcam and just kind of do that with it up and down the street, you'd see half a dozen cop cars. And that's just DC Metro doing their thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, defund them. But again, not when you have representatives of the United Nations and the IMF, and then you have all their little puppets dancing around. No, we'll ward them off. Don't worry with the military, but we still got to make sure if they want to go out and get a snackle or two, that they're going to be protected by the police. And the hypocrisy is insane. And again, even saying that right now can't be amplified through the algorithms. Let me give you an example, guys. They've been bleeding my subscribers ever since I got on after that second strike. With my massive 61,000 subscribers, I'm not sure how many are watching right now, but I had a live stream waiting audience of 3. Of 3 now. I'm down to 3. I put that up a half an hour plus ago. I mean, my numbers are way down. Yeah, exactly. I had 3 people waiting. So, I mean, you look at this.
What's it like over on Rockfin, though?
We actually have 17 people on Rockfin right now. We do have 130 watching at the end of the day. But this stream should have at least had triple that when they were censoring me before. You know?
Yeah.
And we can't talk about how it's for us and not them. The robot dogs are in New York City now. That's for Joe Schmo. You know, they rolled them out. We were talking about this last year. It took less than a year for them to roll out the robot dogs. I mean, Steve, that was one of the things I was talking to you about in February before this thing even locked down. I remember in DC, I'm like, dude, they're really going to roll these fucking things out. They're treating them like they're our pets. I do want to thank a few of the tippers over at Rockfin. Richard Salembo, thank you. Peter MacArthur. And Carolyn Clancy says, for all your great work, I'll be sending this Action for Assange folks a bit of a 5-2. Oh, no, a bit of cash, too. Nice. I wish I could do DC. Y'all, if you can, check out Martin's Tavern in Georgetown for a real Irish experience. Hashtag free Assange now. So thank you very much, Carolyn. We really do appreciate that. Let's talk about the next 2 days, right? So you're going to hit these places, Google in particular, tomorrow. You have plans for the 18th. Gloria, I saw you on Richard Medhurst talking about a plethora of other events that are going on and a certain Twitter thread people could check out.
Yeah, if you go to @Candles for Assange on Twitter, Alex Hills runs that account. She's constantly posting and adding new events as she learns them to like this big master thread of events because it's happening all over the world right now. There's going to be events in Mexico City, in Boston, in Tulsa now. There's going to be ones in Amsterdam and New Zealand and Australia. There's definitely going to be one in London as they're protesting the new protest bill that they're trying to put forward. And really all over the world, I can't there's just no way. I'm never going to be able to rattle off all the events going on. But like I said, if you go to Candles for Assange on Twitter,
that's the number 4, guys.
Putting out master threads.
Yeah, I threw it in the chat here.
Yeah, number 4.
So Candles for Assange. People check out that Twitter thread. I'm sure you've been retweeting them at Slow News Day Show, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
And we will again throughout the day tomorrow too, because the I guess first event in Wellington, New Zealand kicked off several hours ago. So as you know, time moves and shit like that, we'll continually retweet out locations and whatnot. With the exception of the London one. We can't tell you where that's at. Mm-hmm. We can't advertise where that's at. Because you, if you're listening in London and you want to go, you won't safely get there because their cops are fucking out of hand.
Yeah.
Like, they looked like they were watching NYPD fresh off a training bit at the IDF.
They looked like they were watching LASD after a trip to Gaza.
Yeah.
I played some of the footage from London yesterday, some of the more tame footage. But the bottom line is, when are those people going to wake up and realize that they need to be on the other side of that protest instead of defending these monsters and these lockdowns? And I don't know if I have much hope, because I don't know if you've seen this video in Galveston, Texas, again, where it's supposed to be open. This poor 60-plus-year-old woman not standing by anybody, no threat to anybody, not wearing a mask, gets arrested, drugged to the floor. No one steps up for her to at least say, you should be ashamed of yourself. I'll tell you what, something like that happens to me there, I want all my money out right now. I'm going to give this guy a tongue lashing as I pick this poor woman's stuff up. So when she gets arrested, she'll have her stuff. And I'm going to go pick her up. Where are you taking her? Because
I do that regardless of the case, like regardless of what the instance is, just because state violence on terrible grounds against innocent people is unacceptable, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum. Just being in the spirit of nonpartisanship, especially like the police brutality that's been taking place in London has been going on even before the anti-lockdown protests. We've talked to people who protest outside of Belmarsh that get harassed by police every time they protest, that get arrested. They dragged off a 93-year-old man. Well, then he was 92, but a 92-year-old Eric Levy for essentially dumbass reasons. And it took 10 police to drag an old man home. Granted, they won't do it again because he read their riot codes to him and made them look like fucking idiots. But
as I saw a police car driving in the background, by the way, while everything happened.
Yeah.
Hard to miss. I mean, yeah.
No, well, again, that we might get censored for that, showing a little bit of reality that, again, this whole defund the police movement, that's for you guys. That's not for the DC elite. You know, walls don't work unless they're caging in and protecting politicians from the serf class. They don't work then. You know, neither does a militarized anything unless, I mean, look, we're now in 2021. This is the most outward banana republic third world reaction I've ever seen in this country. There is no end in sight. People talked about, oh, don't worry, it's just till the beginning of March. Like, this isn't till the beginning of March. Nothing like that. This is the whole deal. So we may never, ever, 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 ever again have a non-militarized Capitol building. I mean, I went on like school trips to the Capitol. Yeah, that was my senior trip. We went to DC. We learned about America.
I went in. I think it was my junior or my sophomore year. We got in a lot of trouble.
You know what? Funny story, and I may get yelled at for telling it, but I'm going to. So,
spill that tea, Jason.
Yes,
Burmis.
Jason.
So, my senior year, we had to have a new superintendent because his daughter, who had just graduated the year before, was outed as having a sexual relationship, an affair with a married man who was also a teacher. at the little school and her high school basketball coach. And I mean, this was just like so out in the open. I remember when he had his first baby with his wife. I'm not kidding you. This girl, who I think was like 17 at the time, had a bike with a seat for the baby on the back and was like driving his baby around. And like, when you went to his house, on his fireplace, he had a picture of both of them. I mean, it was very blatant. People knew. Eventually, they got caught. So my superintendent has to retire. They bring in this Nam veteran who's like ends up being like the coolest guy ever, right? So we're on the DC trip. And, obviously this is long before cell phones and the whole thing. And, we had a bunch of like the stupid little disposable cameras or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And we were at one of the memorials in DC. It was, along the line where you have the wall of all the soldiers' names that have died in the wars, etc. Yeah. And I decide that we're going to take some pictures of me like lying dead next to some of the soldiers on like the thing. And like, my new superintendent, who literally carried, I'm not even kidding you, a flattened bullet around his neck from Nam that apparently had killed some young kid and stopped through him, who was coming with one of the Coca-Cola bombs that you only read about, right? Mm-hmm. So he has this thing around his neck. He's all for it. He's got the camera. He's taking the picture. And when somebody came over and actually, like, one of the people said it was very disrespectful, and, I was being a shitty 17-year-old kid, and what the fuck are you doing? And even he was like, oh, come on, I say, he defended me, and I just thought to myself, thank you for defending me. I don't know if you're still around, but it was one, I loved my DC trip. It actually made me, things like the Smithsonian, mm-hmm. and otherwise, actually, I still remember as a kid in New York when I went to the Smithsonian, and it had the dinosaurs alive. Remember that? Big when we were kids, Steve. The animatronic dinosaurs.
Yeah. No, I remember that movie.
Well, it wasn't a movie.
Then you went to the animatronic exhibit at the Smithsonian.
Yeah. Okay, no. So I thought you were talking about the movie.
No, well, they had literally, I remember the dinosaur movie, but they had the dinosaurs alive thing. So when you walked in, like there was footprints and you'd walk, that hooked me on history right there. So, those fond memories of me being an asshole may be over forever. Like, in order to have those type of tours, you may have to have like a military clearance. You might have to show your vaccination passport. You might have to have a good score on your social credit score. You don't want to be anti-censorship. You want to be with the state. Huh? You want to be with the state. That's what you want to be. I mean, that's where we're at. That's the nightmare I see. And that's why Assange has been so important. WikiLeaks is so important. And what you guys are doing right now is so important. And as we approach the half-hour mark, the end of this broadcast, tell people one more time how they can help you, how they can get involved, and really lay it, on the line as why this is the issue of today.
So I'll start with that. No matter what it is that you advocate for, no matter what it is that you personally want to see done through society, or done to society for that matter, it hinges on your ability to communicate that message to people who aren't familiar with it, to people who may not already agree with it. I know it may sound weird to some people that you need to talk to people outside of your ideological bubble, but it's true. It is. And so without a free press, without a free and open internet, without a free Julian Assange as currently the first and only foreign publisher charged under any other country's version of an espionage act, that completely unprecedented, never before happened. Without those things, it doesn't matter what you want to see done, it's not going to happen. And it does, like, that could just be, you, Jason Burmis, trying to do your show. You personally know how hard it is for you to do your show when there's a censor-happy tech overlord leaning over your shoulder. For you to continue to do that, people need to advocate for you as well. And that's when we're in front of Google tomorrow, brother, I am advocating for you. I am advocating for everyone who's been taken down, who's been taken out, and who has not been able to make the living that they had previously been able to do by communicating truth as they see it. Anything to add to that, Jones?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of hinted at it before, but it's like, this is one of the first steps we need to take in order to really start securing some agency and actually beginning to take down the national security state and really at least establishing a foundation so we can build upon that and make better society from there. Because like Steve said, if we can't solicit or publish or share information, we're screwed. That's journalism. That's an act of journalism. And that's exactly what this case is attempting to criminalize. And if the cross appeal isn't effective enough, if Julian dies in prison and a good precedent is established, then we're all screwed. Because as it stands, even though extradition was denied, the judge agreed with everything else to the point where she introduced her own little indictment. And she cited a CNN article to dispel the fact that based off the fact that UC Global was helping the CIA spy on Julian Assange, that the case should be thrown out, which was the reason why Daniel Ellsberg's case was thrown out. But it's absolutely asinine to think that that's where we are. And that's why we're coming to these St. Patrick's Day events with a level of absurdity, because this situation is batshit crazy. It's insane. It's dumb. So we're going to come at it with kind of the same levels of tenacity and craziness.
And if you want to help right now, honestly, if you wanted to get funds to Action for Assange, probably the only way to do, we have a Go Get Funding up, and you can check that out. It's on our website. Jason showed it, but we won't see any of the money for that until like end of the week, early next week. PayPal at Slow News Day Show, and if need be, I'll produce the literal receipts of what it went to. But that's how you can help out in the immediate. Overall, we're going to leave that Go Get Funding up because, again, we've got events coming up on the 11th that we're going to start planning, 11th of April, that we're going to start planning as soon as we get back. Never a moment's rest for this shit, Jason Burmis.
Well, let me just say this. You've been there now in the last 2 or 3 months 3 times. Not cheap. So, again, at Slow News Day Show, that's where you can find him on PayPal. Please, please, please help these guys out. Again, you can also do so at Action4Assange.com. We are all on a little platform I like to call Rockfin. Rockfin. Have you heard about the Rockfin? I continue to put all of my original material on there for free right now. We're now talking about well over a month after the censorship. It's hit me hard in the pocket. There's no GoFundMe. The Go Get Funding isn't really there. It's not the same thing. There's a time when PayPal may not accept me, or Venmo. You see what's happening now to Richard Medhurst. I'm trying to get him on the program. Remember when I predicted that?
That was her.
Yeah. Well, actually,
that was her $5, by the way.
Oh, you did the cereal one?
Yeah, her account.
No. So what Richie was saying, what Richie is talking about with PayPal, it doesn't have to do with me, but basically I had problems with PayPal related to Richie months ago because like a couple months ago I was watching his show and I sent him a super chat through PayPal, and in my message I said the word Cuba in it. So my message gets chucked into pending because if any of your payments have words like, I think it's Cuba, Syria, Palestine, Julian Assange, Venezuela, and a couple more words, if it has any of those words in it, then they immediately hold up your payment in pending. But so I sent my message that said Cuba, it got put in pending. Next morning, I get an email from PayPal that my account is locked. And in order to have it up and running again, I need to send them an email explaining my use of the word Cuba.
Your use of the word, that's a country. I mean, I want to say it's a joke. It's just like, again, you can't name physical, geological bodies of land that have people living in them and have political establishments by name without the censorship police saying, wait, maybe we're not giving you this money and no money for you. So I'm sure the whole social credit score thing is going to work out great for everybody when we're at that level in 2021. Guys, as always, a pleasure. By the way, I'm trying to get Medhurst on. So if you can give me like a DM introduction, I love that guy. I watch him all the time. I'd love to scratch it off for 30, 60 minutes and talk to him. But again, Rockfin's a place where you can find all of us. All my stuff's free. Go make that free account now. Later on, I'm going to be doing a AMA based on some of the news that we've missed this week. And then I'm just bringing half of it to Rockfin from now on because I can't say half the shit I want out here. Believe me. I want to say so much more. I want to go full board Burmese, but it's just not possible in 2021 on YouTube. Guys, fuck censorship. Oh, you turned off your mic. I got it. All right. Well, guys, I love you, and I'll see you soon.
Fuck censorship.
Fuck censorship.